I'm not a cop, so it's kind of hard for me to put myself in the shoes of a cop chasing after the bad guys. But I would imagine if you could slow a bad guy down, that's a pretty good invention.
There's two guys locally who have just that idea. It's called Crook Hook. You can check it out on their website, crookhook.net. I believe we're in the process of putting their video on our Facebook page, too. Paul Gelinas, the CEO, Kevin Trigo, the inventor, in the studio with us right now. Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Who came up with the idea?
I did. I'm Kevin.
And what inspired this?
Well, I was working for a demolition company and operating heavy equipment, and I always had an interest in law enforcement. And I had gone and taken the police exam for New York City, and I'd be watching these police shows, and these guys were running and for hours at a time, and the police would always catch them. But once they caught up to them, they had no recourse. All they did was continue to follow them until they crashed, ran out of fuel. So I said, there's got to be a better way. So one day I'm operating it was a skid steer machine, like a Bobcat, with a grappler bucket. I'm like, there's got to be something to this. And I was able to, by looking at police cars and push bumpers and saying, I bet I can modify that push bumper to work like this grappler bucket, but in a different manner. Instead of coming from the top, come from the bottom. And that's what I did. And then I patented it, and I built it, and it worked better than I ever dreamed it would work.
Well, what's the hook made of? Is it metal? Is it something different?
Yeah, no, it's made out of aircraft grade aluminum, and each hook is rated at 66,000 pounds. So you can pick the car up with a crane just by one hook, and each hook works independently of each other. So it reaches under to grab onto that car to the suspect vehicle, and it's not letting go.
Now, it won't, because most vehicles, I would imagine, have their gas tanks back there. It won't puncture the gas tank?
No, we needed to design safety features into this to make sure that nothing would happen like that. You don't want to puncture a gas tank. You don't even want to crush a gas tank, because if you collapse the gas tank, it'll push the fuel out the vent pipe and still cause a fire or an explosion.
Mm-hmm.
Or, God forbid, you have a victim in the trunk. You're going to kill the very person you're trying to save.
Right.
So we designed it. Basically, the way it works, it's spring-loaded into the up position. So it uses the gas pistons that hold up your hood or your trunk lid to hold the hooks in the up position. So the motors only push it to the down position, and then once it makes contact, playing bumper tag, once it makes contact, the hooks come up and they work independently and they grab on.
Now, in this day and age, with the way they make cars, we don't. It's not like the old days where you would see the metal bumper. But it's still there. It's covered in plastic.
That's correct.
Will it not just rip the plastic off, and then the person's driving away with the metal bumper still there?
Crook Hook is designed to reach under the vehicle and grab onto anything tangible under there. If it happens to slip off and rip off the plastic bumper cover, oh well.
You go again.
Push the button, redeploy it, and go again. There's always something tangible to grab.
This is Kevin Trigo and Paul Gelinas from Crook Hook. Now, what happens if you get the car, and the car decides, well, I'm going to try to break free of this, and the guy starts to, fiddle around with the steering wheel? I mean, once the car is engaged with the hook, is there any way for him to weasel his way out of it?
That is actually to the police officer's advantage, because if you have two vehicles traveling and you have 8 wheels in line, the front vehicle with 4 wheels and the rear vehicle 4 wheels, as soon as that front vehicle turns and now you have 8 wheels that are not in line, the thing comes to a grinding halt. It comes to a stop with minimal braking power on the part of the police officer. It's actually better if the guy turns. And through proper training, the police officer will be trained to lock down on the wheel and maintain a straight line and keep his position, and the advantage to the police officer.
Let me ask you this as someone who does this part-time, because you point out in the video that I forget the number you used, something like 90% of all police pursuits, 80% start out as traffic stops.
That's correct.
Now, so the idea behind this would be, when an officer performs a traffic stop, he deploys the Crook Hook to the vehicle before even actually getting out of the cruiser to make contact with the driver.
Well, that's one way to use Crook Hook, because if they have probable cause and the guy is wanted, if he's driving a stolen vehicle or matches the description of a bank robbery, that's certainly one way that Crook Hook can be utilized.
This is why I ask, because and I don't mean to shoot holes in the whole idea, but the way we are trained is that when you do a traffic stop, you would never pull that close up behind a car. You want to leave a certain amount of space
Safety
between
zone.
you and the one in front of you for cover, in case that guy comes out shooting, you've got an opportunity to retreat and get out of there.
Right.
So you would never actually go that close to a car on a traffic stop.
Right. Well, through proper training and technique, there's going to be proper training that's going to teach police officers how to use that technique. I mean, if somebody's actively shooting at you, it's probably not the right time to deploy that tool. But you're talking about a felony takedown.
Not even. No, I'm talking about what people like to call a routine traffic stop.
Routine traffic. You're not going to hook grandma
wouldn't
going
hook
to
it.
the.
All right.
You're not going to go.
So
hook
you're
grandma.
not hooking somebody unless you have reasonable suspicion
That's
they're
correct.
going to run.
That's correct.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, you're not going to hook Granny going to the store for milk. That's
Right.
not appropriate.
You know what I'd like to see?
Unless Granny's a badass, and that could happen.
Yeah, like Mom Baker.
I know a few.
like big suction cups that shoot out of the front of your car and lock onto the bumper in front of you, so that you still have the distance between you.
Yeah. Believe it or not, back in 1936, there was a guy that invented something similar, which I only discovered during my patent process, where he had that on the end of like a 10-foot steel cable, and the problem with that is you give too much control to the bad guy.
Yeah.
He has the ability to turn turn around on you.
Right.
It really doesn't work well.
I was kind of joking because I mean, you'd have to have the aim of hitting the bumper and the wind velocity and all that kind of stuff.
Plus, you're shooting projectiles, and if you miss, God forbid you kill somebody.
But have you seen the other things too, where there are systems that can kill the engine?
Yeah, exactly. EMP technology. The technology is not perfected. Then they're still working on it. They need to isolate the police vehicles from that technology.
Right. Yeah,
So,
and any other vehicles that are on the roadway around you.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So but right now this is the best alternative police departments have. I mean, what are your alternatives? Pit maneuvers.
Yeah. Paul, you're the CEO of the company. Obviously, you have an invention here. It's patented and possibly ready to go. What's the process of getting this into the hands of police departments?
Well, first of all, we have to. We're in the middle of raising money, which we've gotten a lot of it raised, and then we have to get some distributors that are that sell to the police force throughout the country. So we have distributors lined up to take this product, and they already have inroads to the police departments, precincts.
Now, as far because most police departments have budgets, and they're not infinite. What would something like this cost for, say, one cruiser?
One cruiser would be about anywhere between $7,000 and $8,000 for the unit installed.
So more than likely, you wouldn't be using more than one per department.
It'd be one, or it depends. It depends. If you're in LA or if you're in Las Vegas, you're down in Pinellas County in Florida, probably a couple more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be one. It depends how many chases you have. It depends, what your policies are.
How easy is it to change off of one cruiser to another?
Not a problem. There's two types of crook hooks. One for the SUV. Police SUVs, and one for a regular police interceptor.
Well, and that's enough. What about the suspect vehicle? Can the Crown Victoria hook onto an SUV?
Well, it depends, of course, how high the wheels are, how big it is. If it's a souped-up SUV, probably not.
Right.
But for the most vehicles, yes. We use the SUV for bigger things or for maybe border patrol, that type of thing. But really, the only difference is the mount. The crook hook for both vehicles is the same size. It does the same thing, just at the mount, because it's got a mount on a different type of vehicle. That's the only difference.
And this doesn't make any difference if the lead vehicle is a front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive?
Not at all.
Not at all.
No.
Or four-wheel drive?
It's really
Four-wheel drives makes a difference.
Yeah, it
So
makes a little bit of a difference.
You have to have weight versus weight. It's not power versus power.
So if the crook throws it into four-wheel drive, he's pulling you.
It depends. If you have a vehicle of the same size and weight, he's not going to do well at all. Right. Because you have to be able to get that power to the ground, and if you have a vehicle of similar size, you're not getting that power to the ground.
I guess my understanding of physics isn't really that good. If two vehicles are moving at 70 miles an hour and the rear vehicle hooks onto the front vehicle and the front vehicle continues to accelerate and the rear vehicle even not just decelerates but brakes, how and they're both the same size, same horsepower, let's say, how does the vehicle in the back bring the one to the front to a stop as opposed to the front vehicle dragging the rear vehicle?
Yeah, the vehicles just don't have that kind of strength. I mean, they're not designed to do that. It just doesn't happen that way. And I can tell you from somebody who's done this many times, it works, and and it's very effective. Very effective.
Well, you got it with you?
I know.
Because, I mean, we could probably get it going here on Fisher Avenue. I could probably get it up to about 60, 70 miles an hour.
You're on. Invite us back. We'll do that for you.
That would be very cool.
I was looking at all the cars in the parking lot. No problem with any vehicle that's out there.
Yeah.
So.
But when you came up with this idea, because the video even, you said that's out at the State Police vehicle training area. But how did you, as the guy inventing it and testing it, how did you test it around here?
I
Well,
don't know if you want to say that.
Yeah,
Just went out on Boston Road
yeah,
and
you're
started.
gonna get me in trouble with the local law enforcement.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, a lot of late nights, 3 o'clock in the morning, find a nice quiet section of highway, and no headlights in the far in either direction, and go for it.
Because you have this you have this vehicle that you're using, right? That you're driving on
That's
the road.
correct.
It's road worthy.
Yeah.
And it's got Crook Hook written across. It's
Yeah.
a white Crown Victoria with Crook Hook written on the side of it.
I would
Yeah.
imagine the first time you do it and videotape it just to test it out must be like an episode of Jackass. Okay, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I want you to drive really fast and I'm going to catch up to you, see?
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing has been a wild adventure because if you look at the video, you're watching the video, you don't realize that there are some shots where I have my buddy in the trunk. He's holding up the trunk lid and videotaping as the unit's coming towards him.
Oh.
We had another car
okay.
riding next to, that and, standing out the top of a convertible.
Right.
So, I mean, it just looks like...
So some of the pictures, John, are going 80 miles an hour, but some of the other ones, the close-ups, he's going actually 40. But you don't want to kill his partner. So
Right.
You
Right.
still have to show the underneath, and you have to capture that picture. So
Yeah.
they did it several times, several different speeds.
No, one of the things that we were talking about earlier this week about the Crook Hook, and again, you can go to the website crookhook.net, was if you're in a pursuit and the lead car is swerving around and you can't get both hooks underneath the bumper, could you still get him with one?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said,
One
each
will
hook
be
is
fine.
rated at 66,000 pounds, so there's no problem with that at all.
So you would use this while you're moving.
Well, see, that's the wonderful thing about this. When I first thought of the idea, that's what I'm thinking of. During an active pursuit, you're chasing somebody. That was the reason for it. After developing it, I discovered 80% of all pursuits began from a car stop. So I've had police chiefs say to me, if I can put a dent in just that statistic, I want them on every vehicle in my fleet.
The only thing,
Then-
the thing I worry about is, first of all, as Bax said, the average guy is not going to be driving in a straight line, or you're not going to have enough roadway that he's not going to make a turn at some point also. And then if you have to get that close to him in order to put the hook on, and he sees you, he hits the brakes, you slam into his back end, now your
That's going to be
vehicle's
bad news for
disabled.
him. That's going to be bad news for him because this thing is welded to the chassis. So
Yeah, but
I mean,
you're not actually deploying it until you get close enough to him, right?
You
Or
can't-
no, the
You
hooks
can
have
do
to
it-
be
you can do it-
down.
Yeah.
You can do it anytime. You can do it a mile ahead of time. You can do it anytime.
So
Yeah.
the hooks have to be down,
Yeah.
and then you pull up behind him. If he slams on those brakes, is he hitting the hooks, or is he going over the top of the hooks
no,
and hitting your
because
grill?
there's an upright behind it, and there's a sensor switch on that upright, which is going to activate the hooks to come to the up position. So he's going to hit a heavy piece of metal is what he's going to hit. So
And then that activates the crook hook to go back to home position anyway. That's what we have to do: touch it or hit it at whatever speed, and that signals the arms to start going back to the home position, which is starting hook. So if he does that, he just does it a little sooner than we would do, than the policeman would do it. But then the policeman just hits. The
it's
brakes,
important to
slows it right
mention
down.
as well that Crook Hook has other uses that I never even dreamed of when I first invented this, and basically. Some police departments are interested in it because they can use it for evidence preservation. If they roll up on a burglar alarm in the middle of the night for a liquor store and there's a suspicious vehicle out front, they can hook that vehicle, get out and investigate, and that vehicle's not leaving until they come back and release it. So that's a use for it. Drug and addiction teams, they want it because once they make the drug deal and do the signal, they can swoop in, hook that vehicle, and now they're not in a long pursuit from a simple drug bust.
Yeah.
We've also been approached by the U.S. military. They wanted to know if we can build it for the Humvee because they want it for vehicle extraction. They want to be able to pull a vehicle away from a roadside bomb and a possible secondary explosion.
Yeah.
So there's more uses for it than I could have ever dreamed of at the time.
Yeah. It's very interesting. I think it's kind of very interesting. I was just, like I said, my initial concern when I first saw the thing was, on a traffic stop, you're not going to pull up that close behind a vehicle. And you're saying that you probably wouldn't use this unless you had some kind of reason to believe that they might run. And that could get, kind of tricky. I mean, you might not know they're going to run, and they might not know they're going to run until they realize that they're getting arrested or they've got warrants or what have you. But it's an interesting idea.
The website crookhook.net. Paul Julinas and Kevin Trigo, we appreciate you coming in. Best of luck.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks
Thanks,
very
guys.
much. Appreciate it.
With Bax and O'Brien to Rock 102.